Alright, getting ready to go live. Welcome to Throwback Thursday. I'm waiting for the stream to get ready, so hopefully we'll be live in a sec. There we go, awesome! Hey, what's up, Hacksters? Welcome to Throwback Thursday, as I said. Today we are looking at a awesome find that we found in an old office when we were moving from tech shop to elsewhere. There was this mysterious box that was being used to build a drone, and it included this ancient BeagleBone. It also included a number of really bulky at this point Zigbee connectors and a huge 3-axis accelerometer setup, which was just insane. But let's first take a little field trip around this awesome board. So this is a Rev C2 of the original BeagleBoard. And what have we got on here? We've got LCD connectors over here. We've got a DVI-D connection, which is actually an HDMI port, but you had to have an adapter to hook it up to a DVI-D monitor. After that, there's an S-video connection. Shout out if you remember seeing these on the old school computers, depending on your age. We've got video or audio out and audio in. Also an OTG port that's USB on the go, which is used for connecting to different types of boards. So, for example, if you want to hook up a keyboard or mouse to your phone, and it's an Android phone, you'll often use an OTG cable, but that'll usually be a micro USB these days. Note how they've used epoxy, which is kind of a nice touch, because USB cables or ports are one of the most common things to become dislodged from a board because of all the yanking and stuff. I'm an inveterate yanker, and I know that many people are as well. So to guard against that, they've put this extra physical reinforcement on. There's also a 5 volts input here. You've got RS-232 connection for serial communication. Over here is a JTAG connector for debugging and emulation sometimes. And then you've got this huge SD card connector, which is one of the things that most clearly shows its age, because these days, you know, you've got these teeny tiny little things, and sometimes they click and sometimes they don't. If they don't click, they're really not worth it. But yeah, in this case, you've just got this huge old card, and I kind of wonder, so this was 8 years ago, this thing came out in 2009, I'm kind of wondering like how much smaller the things were that people were putting on these, and what kind of difference that made for how big 8 gigabytes felt. I don't know. You got a USB host port over here and a couple of buttons. One of them is for reset and one of them is a user customizable button. You've also got some of these LEDs, some of which are for feedback and some of which are controllable. This is a huge flash chip over here, and this guy controls the displays. The back isn't very interesting, except that it's got, you know, more stickers. This one's got the serial number on it on a sticker. And yeah, they're similar enough between revisions that they just have this spot to put the sticker showing what revision it was. So in this case, as you can see, it's C2. Trying to get the focus right here. There we go. Yeah. And, you know, there's plenty of information on the different revisions of this. But yeah, you could hook this up to a Linux computer through the OTG port as well and just talk to it directly that way. But you could also just set it up, you know, as a standalone board. Kind of crazy. So underneath it, I've got this BeagleBone White, which is the first sort of the current main set of BeagleBones. So this guy was formatted obviously to fit in an Altoids tin. An interesting choice. It looks really cool and it's kind of got armor, right? But at the same time, you know, you're definitely a risk for shorting it out if you choose to actually keep your project in here. So, and it's, you know, always a choice to be made. But as you can see, this guy has a little bit of updating, no S-video, you know, so if you were hung up on that format, then you're out of luck, I guess. Ethernet port here, though, and then much of the other stuff is the same, except we've got 8 million GPIO, general purpose in and out pin connections. So there's actually 46 on each side of this, which kind of makes me want to do something with like human chromosomes based project, because we've got, you know, 46 chromosomes or 46 genes. No. We have 2 sets of 23 chromosomes. Okay, yeah. Anyway, so it's an interesting parallel with the human genetic setup, and I think it'd be an interesting basis for a project. But anyway, yeah. This is a much more recent board, of course, but you've still got the same little OTG port and USB. You do have the cool clicky little micro SD connection, which is just my fave. I think this one might have come from OpenROV at one of their hack days, actually. It's got this little sticker on it that, to me, implies a certain iteration of firmware or software. But I'm not totally sure. Oh, no. But that'd be a pretty cool legacy for one of these, huh? So the other thing I wanted to move on to was the future. We've just looked at the past and the sort of present. There's a BeagleBoard Blackout now, which is actually cheaper than this and has onboard HDMI, so you would probably want to go with that. As it says, explore infinite possibilities! And you can still do plenty with these boards, but let's take a look at what's the future at this point. Whoops! There we go. So here's SparkFun's old documentation page if you want to explore the old ones. It's kind of cool that they keep this stuff up for curiosity's sake and in case you happen to have one of these kicking around as well. BeagleBoard.org also has comprehensive information on the older boards, and they also have this great wiki that tells you about all the differences between even the revisions of the different boards. So there's like, you know, Rev C, Rev B, Rev C2, Rev C3, C4, C5, etc. And all these different cool things, including way down here you've got more in-depth links to really specific documents. So that's pretty cool. How comprehensive this open source community is, because the BeagleBoard is open source. There's also a pretty cool project that someone has built back in 2009, in April 2009. That's insane, 8 years ago. Taking a Sinclair ZX, aka a ZX Spectrum, and turning it into a BeagleBone-powered computer, or BeagleBoard, I guess, yeah. So you can see the comparisons between the old computer and the new one. Inside, there's a cool view of the insides. This site is not working the best. I have a feeling it may be a little out of date or something, but you can at least compare the old board full of all these crazy chips and the new one with this tiny, 3x3 BeagleBoard, and they were able to hack even the old power supply with a level converter so that it would work still. And they also even got the old keyboard to work, which is my favorite part because I think that that's a really integral part of interacting with old technology, is using the tools that people used then. And so they took this old keyboard and rewired the keys to the guts of a new keyboard, a modern one, so that it would still work with the BeagleBoard, which is pretty cool. And so now they can just plug it in over USB. I love that. I've done some keyboard hacks, and this is a pretty cool one. They also, of course, have information on the more recent modern BeagleBoards, and so the future is the Pocket Bone, which is, a ridiculous name, of course, and this one fits inside of an Altoid Smalls tin, so it's about half the size of the old BeagleBone that I showed you. Yeah, it's about yay big, which is insane, and the way that they manage that is they've packed all this stuff onto a single chip from Octavo. It's insane. So that big black block that you see there is just the entire guts of the BeagleBone. And you can see this also actually in the BeagleBone Blue, which is a new board that is designed for robotics. They've got this doing the all the brainy stuff, and then they've got the rest of the board as essentially what used to be a hat, or a cape, they call them for these, similar to an Arduino shield or a Pi hat. They used to have a cape for robotics with like hookups for servos and DC motors and stuff. Now they just have that be the board and plonk this chip on top of it. So it's all in one. That's the BeagleBone Blue. Check it out if you're interested. And then this guy is the Pocket Bone. So they've just got this huge Octavo chip. And a couple USB hookups and a micro SD card slot, and then they've etched and dremeled this little case. And they've also applied some vinyl stickers to help insulate it from the metal, but from what I hear, there's still complications with it shorting out, which is kind of to be expected in a metal case for electronics. But anyway, there's ways around it. You can definitely protect against this, especially using some kind of foam, perhaps. But, they fit it in the case, and that's pretty cool. So this is built by Jason Kreidner, our friend, and Michael Welling. And they've got, obviously, this whole huge write-up on Hackster, which is wonderful. And then also they've got this GitHub page that tells you everything about the KiCad files, how to build it, and they also have it on Oshpark. So if you can get a hold of the Octavo chip, you can build your own. And I don't know if it comes in this rectangle form factor, or you would have to sort of cut off the corners yourself, or if it comes already cut. I think it comes already cut. But anyway, then you can get this chip, the Octavo chip. There's definitely more about that on the official pages that you can check out. And then finally, the BeagleBoard.org page, of course, has tons of info on current, past, and future revisions. And you can get involved too, because it's an open source organization. So if you're interested in building the future of mini PCs, especially on a Linux base with a super friendly and open group, go check it out. And we'd love to see what kind of contributions you come up with in the future. Thanks for watching and have an awesome Throwback Thursday. Oh, I have to stop streaming. There we go.